We as a company have been always fast adopter of technology, and we use adopt AI naturally. Where we have seen most impact is more productivity. Transformational will occur if we redraw our work,
right,
in which we can use agents as part of our workflow. And that requires us to reimagine the work by itself.
I'm Francine Lacqua, and this is Leaders, the podcast that explores what drives the world's most influential people. Be sure to follow and subscribe now so you never miss an episode. This week, I'm speaking to Vimal Kapur, the chair and chief executive of the newly formed automation company Honeywell Technologies. Until recently, Kapur was a group chair and CEO of Honeywell International, the tech and manufacturing conglomerate that made everything from thermostats to aircraft engines. Now, Kapur's road to the C-suite is particularly interesting to me. He started and spent much of his career in India, his birthplace. Joining in his 20s, he then rose to running its automation business in India, a satellite site of Honeywell. But it wasn't until later that he moved to corporate Honeywell in the US and eventually secured the top job. However, shortly after assuming the role of group CEO, Kapur made the bold decision to break up the company, a move that actually coincided with the arrival of an activist investor on the scene. And with 2026 marking the culmination of Honeywell's split, I wanted to catch up with Kapur as he prepared for his new role. Vimal Kapur, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders.
I appreciate you having me here today.
So talk to me about how you started out.
So I started in joint venture of Honeywell in India.
Yeah.
So Honeywell's...
But before that, you had 3 jobs in 3
Right,
years.
so
So
I
you made
passed
fast decisions
Yeah.
of what you didn't want to do.
So my first job was a government-owned company. Didn't like the speed at which they work, not my place. So found a job in another smaller company, which was, much more traditional way of working, very centralized, and didn't like that either. And then Honeywell started a joint venture with the Tata Group in 1988, and I joined in 89. And it was actually a startup. And one benefit there was that you don't have a defined job. Job depends upon what's going on, and you have to take different roles, which makes you learn more by default. You're less compartmentalization.
Yeah.
So that early learning through that cycle was very, very helpful to, be in commercial function, to be in project management, and that gives you a much more accelerated pace of learning.
So there's a school of thought that says, look, if you don't work in headquarters, it's actually very, very difficult to rise to the top. That wasn't your case.
One thing I always believe is there's no one definitive path for you to get to the top of any role in a company. So I did practically all my life into the roles which were customer facing or business, and never worked in corporate ever. So it's kind of good to be called corporate now and being CEO of the company. It's a different, but I certainly benefit from my years of experience in different segments of the company.
I mean, that's really different from other CEOs.
Yeah, it maybe it is. I guess the benefit of having worked in different parts of the company certainly gives you more clarity on the customer needs and how employees think and how the business really works. I think it's easier to learn the corporate side of it. I think the new things I had to learn as a CEO was more around building relationship with investor. That's relatively new, but the business side is very, very similar.
So what did you learn about leading a team outside headquarters as opposed to, within headquarters?
I think leading a team outside headquarters, people want more decision powers. They want to move with speed, and they want to be clear on what they can do and what they cannot do. Once they know that, they feel more empowered. So that to me is fundamental difference, that you come with a mindset of how to make things easier, because big companies can make things more complicated.
So concretely, how do you do it? Do you remind people also on the ground, or do you remind headquarters to listen to people on the ground?
So simply saying reduce bureaucracy, you can end up creating work which is more than the previous work, which will not lead to any outcome. But if you want to get more work to the front end, you have to make structural changes on how you're organized. Maybe the decision rights have to move from center to the front end, and that requires time. But that's some of the things we have been doing.
Is it difficult to get noticed? Again, when you were sitting in India, was it difficult to speak up if everything felt so far away?
In a company like Honeywell, there's a benefit of having a global structure in which you get to participate in different decision making. But obviously, as I moved into different roles, your your visibility changes because your decision rights are changing, right? You are doing different roles. I never felt I was not heard. Part of it is also in your own mindset. You know, how much you think you can bring up something, and that's why the quality of courage is very important. How do you say what's, you know, working well and or not working well with facts?
Yep.
You don't offer opinion. You don't kind of pass a generic statement, oh, this doesn't work. You know, tell me more. What's your solution? Because it's easier to criticize, but hard to fix it. So if you kind of come with that mindset to say, I observe this, I think this is a better way to do it, that's get appreciated more than just being generally critical of everything you know, generally speaking in the organization.
Sugarcoating it or not sugarcoating it?
I think you want to be respectful. Facts should be stated in a manner which are facts, and then you don't want to criticize anything, which doesn't mean you have to sugarcoat it. But you don't be critical. You state fact to say this is less effective because here are the facts and here's an alternative way to do it.
So what was the moment where you thought you were being considered for CEO or a bigger job?
So for Honeywell, I would say there's no one moment. First thing I did was never said no to any role because I always believe that all jobs are good. And
Can you say no to a role, or if you're offered it, you usually have to say yes?
Yeah, but sometimes if you're too choosy and too debating, I think you are starting with a negative mindset. I always say that if a role exists in a company, it is important because large companies will eliminate a role if it was not important for them, right? So I think each role when you perform and you outperform, that makes a case that you're ready for next move. Yeah. And I think there was no one job which I did which made such a big transformational gain. It's like this job, you performed well, next job, you performed well. And it was, I would say, 2 or 3 times when I outperformed, it kind of makes a case that, okay, you're a strong candidate.
So when did you get the call to go to head office? What was that like?
So I was a segment leader in 2022 when my previous CEO of Honeywell, he mentioned that he would like to, considering, retirement. And he mentioned to me that that's a plan and I'll have to go through the formal interview process with the board. I'm the candidate, but I'm not the selection. Then process is quite interesting because you have to put forward a vision of the company to the board and you have nobody supporting you at all. You're off all by yourself because nobody knows the process is going on. So you have no help. You have to build your own materials. You have to research all by yourself. And you have to do that while you're doing your job because it's supposed to be all confidential, which was fun, I would say.
Fun or terrifying? Or
it's
both?
Fun. I treat that anything learning should be treated with fun. When your hard work becomes stressful, it just is terrifying at that point of time. So I went through that process and board selected me as a candidate. And then 2023, June, I assumed the role. It was announced a couple of months earlier.
Okay, so you get this call. I don't know, it's a secret. Is it a secret call? And you have to come up with a secret plan, right, to convince the board that you're the right person for the job.
Right.
Do you tell your family?
Yeah, of course. I told my wife and my daughter that the only 2 people I have to share. You have to share your excitement with somebody.
Yeah. And what were their reactions?
They obviously were, I would say, a bit shocked because nobody expected me to get this far. They always felt that I do well. I take my job very seriously, but I don't take myself very seriously. That's kind of been my mantra. You don't overthink of yourself. I started as an entry-level engineer in Honeywell. So they've seen me grown over so many roles. I think they did not expect I'll reach that far. So I think that's a kind of a surprise.
In 2024, not long after Vimal Kapur assumed the role of Group CEO, a well-known activist investor, Elliott Investment Management, amassed a $5 billion plus stake in Honeywell and called for the conglomerate to split. Now, Kapur was already in the process of slimming down the portfolio, having announced 1 month earlier the spin-off of Honeywell's advanced material business as a standalone company. But Elliott's move also shone a spotlight on the company's performance and strategic direction. So in February 2025, shortly after Elliott's intervention, Kapur confirmed that the remainder of Honeywell would break up. I wanted to know how Kapur handled the pressure, how it impacted his decision-making, and how he thinks other CEOs facing activist investors can focus on driving results while canceling out the noise. You announced that Honeywell will be split up. What was wrong with the Honeywell of before?
Honeywell did extremely well in the last 20 years period from 2005 to 2022, 2023 timeframe. It created a massive shareholder value. We are a company which did a great job of running businesses efficiently, globalizing ourselves. So it was clear to me that our next 50 years, the earnings growth will come from top line growth. And top line growth is hard to accomplish if you are a complex structure with addressing multiple segments. That was my incoming thesis when I started. But two things happening simultaneously when I started as a CEO. The first was aerospace industry started growing. And at the same time, ChatGPT came in and AI started becoming an important conversation. I always felt that we need to simplify. Aerospace has a huge growth potential in front of it. Automation business have a huge growth potential in front of it with AI. And when we did the work, we found that each company can stand on its own feet with these growth vectors, which went toward this decision.
But it must be hard to take
It's
a company
difficult.
that
Yeah.
you've always worked there almost, to decide to split it up in three completely different entities.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Yeah, but if you do it thoughtfully, you're preparing each company for its success for the next 50 to 100 years. And that's a belief we are really in, that each segment we have created is capable of its own future with a very compelling proposition.
You also had an activist investor on your tail,
Mhm.
Elliott.
Yes.
Did that focus the mind? Was that a catalyst for splitting
It
up?
was, Elliott came into our Honeywell stock in late 24, and we were far along the way towards this journey. And I would say that given what they wanted versus where we were going strategically, were quite aligned. So there was no disagreement.
Okay.
It was not what, it's how. I want to go from A to B, go by train or go by plane. That's an opinion. But you can always align on that. So I would say it's been a very collaborative approach.
When did you find out you had an activist investor? Because speaking to CEOs, a lot of them say, look, this is a nightmare because you're trying to do your strategy.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have someone that just wants in.
Yeah. So, I learned the same day like everybody else learned, because it was a public letter. So I did not have
So you don't get a call before?
Not really. I think they were very clear on their expectation with their research, which was made public. And given that we already had done work in the same lines, so there was a convergence on we had not publicly announced our intention, but we were far along the way on that decision.
So I know a lot of CEOs will be watching this, and a lot of them will want to know. Did you call, Elliott when you found out?
We met with them right away.
Straight away?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was an exchange of ideas of what they wanted before you told them your plans, or was it consensus?
No, their letter was public on what they wanted. And so we understood their plans and we shared our point of view on what we want to do and why. And there was a consensus on that's the right thing to do.
So what's your best piece of advice to the chief executive that will be getting a call maybe today from an activist investor?
I would say that if you have a conviction on your strategy, that's what you need to, really think about and worry about. If that's clear, then it's less about what they believe in. It's more about what you believe in. And if you believe in something and you're able to articulate it with a lot of passion, the probability is that you'll be listened. But if you're all over the place, then the opposition can win because you lack clarity.
So be prepared at all time in your strategy.
I think you be clear on the longer term view of your business. And specifically when the business is not performing well or stock is not performing well, you need to be clear on what are the underlying drivers and what are you going to do about that. If you're clear on it, whether it's your current shareholders, they're asking you the same question. It is not that activists have to show up. We all have share owners, and they're obviously going to ask the question, what's the pathway to break this, lack of shareholder return? Your board is going to ask you that question. So I don't think the question really changes. It's just the narrative of activists just gets more visibility.
Did they, shorten the timeline of what the transformation of the company happened?
No, not really. I think we...
Did they accelerate anything?
No, we said that we're going to complete the aerospace spin by end of 2026, but we are able to procedurally do it faster. I don't think anybody can sit in end of 24 and forecast it'll take how much time. But once you make an announcement, it's in everybody's interest to do it faster.
Honeywell's breakup into 3 separate companies was finalized in June 2026. There's a specialty materials company, the aerospace and aviation company, and Honeywell Technologies, the automation company that Kapur is running now. With a changing brief, I was keen to ask Kapur what it's like to be a chief executive operating in the current geopolitical climate and where he sees the greatest opportunity for AI. Do you think the U.S. economy is going through a transformational change? And this is because of automation, it's because of aero defense, it's because of demands on, from the Trump administration. And how different will that look like?
Aerospace is benefiting from growth in demand of consumer travel, business jet travel, and defense growth. And for automation business, we have been controlling building infrastructure, airports, refineries, warehouses for many years. But the data we collected was only used for control. And that's the question we are asking ourselves, how the data becomes more useful for more operational excellence of an asset. So that's an opportunity for us.
But given we're talking about leadership, how difficult is it to be, a U.S.-based chief executive with unpredictable policies coming from the White House?
I mean, I would say the businesses like predictability, and clearly the predictability is less or things are changing more faster and you have to adapt to it. I mean, this is a reality, and whether it is, tariff-based thing which occurred, now that's become a new normal. We fully understand what the administration expectation is. The job of CEOs have become much more dynamic since COVID. So to me, it's in the series of that constant high amount of change. And we are getting more and more used to it to deal with the change all the time.
But is it having thicker skin? I mean, sometimes you see also President Trump attacking companies. So how do you manage, again, reputational damage with
I think
also
you do
not
the right
wanting
thing as a
to
company. I mean, as a company, we believe you should do what's right for our shareholders, what's right for our customers. And as long as you focus on the foundational things, I don't wake up in the morning to worry about external factors beyond my control.
Even if that means policy change or being directly attacked.
A policy change, yeah. I mean, the policy change, you have to respond to policy change
Right.
at any point of time. Absolutely.
Who do you rely on for advice?
On my entire staff, on my entire team, and to board in nature. I by default believes in collective decision making.
No.
I don't absolve the fact I have to make a decision. In the end, I have to take a call. But you want to have everybody's opinion and input, and then that way you're able to make more superior decision versus, you just want to impose your will.
What about external advice? So I imagine the biggest and hardest decision you've had to make was to split Honeywell. Did you get external bankers advising you or consultancy firms?
You use the bankers or consultant just to validate your thinking. You are not going to rely on third party for such a big decision. But if you want to cement that decision to say, let's check the tertiary factors and make sure that we are not making any error, that's where we want to use, external help. And we do. And we like to work with, external bankers and consultants.
Are there any books or management frameworks that have helped you along the way?
I never studied MBA, so I was always conscious of that. So I always used to read a lot of books on something which I'm experiencing. I mean, early days, I was a big fan of Lean Six Sigma. 20 years back, to reach books on Toyota production system, how exactly it works, right? So you go with that.
It's a page turner.
Yeah. So you always are using a good quality framework all the time. Nowadays, you can watch a lot. And, YouTube is kind of new way to go. How do you learn about AI and what it means? What's large language model? What's agentic versus generative? You need to know it all.
But how important is AI to the work you do at Honeywell?
We as a company have been always fast adopter of technology. So to me, part of it is how it drives productivity in our own operations. The advantage we have is because we are digitally native for many years, we have invested in a lot of foundational systems.
Right.
We can adopt it faster. We don't have to do the foundational work. But the bigger opportunity for us is how we use it for our customers.
But is this productivity, or does it actually enable you to do something that you can't do now? Is it transformational?
Mostly, I would say where we have seen most impact is more productivity, specifically in the software development and software testing. Transformational will occur if we redraw our work,
right,
in which we can use agents as part of our workflow. And that requires us to reimagine the work by itself. Look at the steps which an agent can perform, and then
right,
the rest of the steps human has to perform. And I truly believe this is another way to drive productivity. What excites me is the opportunity it has for our customers, because we create a lot of data. Our customers have one common issue in the sectors we serve.
Mm-hmm.
They are short of skilled people.
Right.
Skilled people required to operate, to maintain, to run. They are increasingly becoming lesser as retirements are coming. So they are already forecasting lesser and lesser people available as workforce for specific roles. And the only solution is you automate a portion of work, or you make the work performed by a lower skilled people. So it means we have to create more tools so that people are more productive. So a 5-year experienced person can do a 15-year experienced person's role. And that's where the AI, physical AI word comes in, where we are having leadership, that we use the data we created, we have in our systems, and we train the data to perform the task to make our customers' people more skilled, make their assets run smarter, operations run better.
I mean, workers must be anxious about it.
Yes and no. If you are in a segments we serve, there are shortage of people by default. There, the role of AI will be more agentic systems coming in over a period of time. So that's true to every company. But if I look at our customers' world, they don't have enough people to run their operations, maintain their operations efficiently. So there's less anxiety about anybody taking away job. The more anxiety is what will happen 3 to 5 years from now. Because foundationally, pretty much in the entire world, the population is not growing. The implication of that is 10 to 15 years from now, less workforce is coming into work. So how will work happen in that case when you need a touch labor? So I think displacement will occur where work can be automated.
But does it change the qualities in leaders that we need? That you're no longer a cheerleader or someone who inspires or has a vision, but you're more of a programmer?
If you look at the evolution of technology over the last 30, 40 years, the more and more work is getting automated, and humans are elevated to a higher level of decision making. It comes in bursts, and every time a big burst comes. So when I started working, for the first 1 year or 18 months, I had not even a computer. I was given computer in 89. So I'm from the era which saw PC first, then there was internet, then there was a mobile phone. So all these, every time these occurrences occur, there's a lot of noise. It's going to take away jobs. But then this is a way technology inflects itself, and it becomes a new normal. Yeah, there's always some churn. And I think as humans, we have to basically remember we have to always raise our skills. If we are static, then our jobs are always at risk.
Rapid fire. In an era of workers needing to skill up, what's a new skill you've learned recently?
Learning more about AI and difference between, I didn't even know the difference between different forms of AI. So just last Sunday, I saw a 1-hour video between generative AI and agentic AI. What's the difference?
Career coach, great investment or pass?
I think it depends on who you are. If you need help to build certain skills, then career coach is a great tool. You must know what help you need. But if you're looking generically and find a magic answer, then it's a pass.
Have you had a career coach?
I had good HR partners for many years, I would say, and I treated them as a career coach to help me become a better leader. And I gave them always the keys to the kingdom to say, you can criticize me, but you have to let me know what I can do better.
Top tip for pushing back against being micromanaged.
Show the facts how it is causing the harm. If you simply say a high-level statement that it's not working, people are going to shrug shoulder or roll up the eyes. But if you're more specific to say, here is an example how micromanage is causing the damage, slowing me down, we're losing the business or losing the speed, then there's a higher probability that, the leadership team will listen.
Vimal, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.